This is lesson 7, fluency with percents. Corey and Everett had collected model cars since the 3rd grade. Corey had 80 model cars in his collection, which is 25% more than Everett has. How many model cars does Everett have? Using our percent equation, we have the 80 cars that Corey has, which is 25% more than Everett. So he has 125%, which is 1.25 more than Everett. And then X is the whole, which is what we are looking for. Okay? So by doing that, we've got P equals percent times W. By replacing, we have 80 equals 1.25 X, and dividing both sides by 1.25, X is going to equal, using our calculator, 64. So in this case, Everett has 64 cars. Okay. Next, 75% of the students in Jesse's class are 60 inches or taller. If there are 20 students in her class, how many students are 60 inches or taller? Well, if we use, again, our formula, we have 75% of those students are taller, so 0.75. There are 20 students in her class, that's our whole, and we want to know how many of them are 60 inches or taller. So we have P equals percent times W. So X equals 0.75 times 20. Multiplying that together on our calculator, 0.75 multiplied by 20 is going to equal, and we should have, and I didn't clear that right, 0.75 multiplied by 20 equals 15. So 15 students are 60 inches or taller. Our next question says Bobby wants to leave a tip for her waitress equal to 15% of the bill. Bobby's bill for her lunch is $18. How much would represent 15% of the bill? Well, again, using our formula, P equals percent and whole. We have 15% or 0.15. Her bill is $18. We want to know how much that is. So by using our formula, P equals percent times W, we have X equals 0.15 times 18. When we multiply that on our calculator here, let me clear that off there, we have 0.15 multiplied by 18. That's going to give us 2.7. Well, remember, if we have 2.7, this is dollars and cents. So we've got to add on that 0 and our dollar sign, which means our tip would be $2.70. Okay? Next. Express 9 hours as a percentage of 3 days. Well, the first thing that we need to do is change the 3 days into hours. So here we need to multiply 3 times 24, which equals 72 hours. So now we can do P equals and our percent and our W. So we have 9 hours, a percent, and our whole, which is 72 hours. So we have P equals percent and W. So we have 9 equals X times 72. And I apologize, this percent should be an X. So divide both sides by 72 so that we can find our percent. So we have 9 divided by 72, and we have 0.125. Again, remember this is a decimal, so we need to move it over twice. So our percent is 12.5%. Our next question for number 2 is at a playoff basketball game, there are 370 fans cheering for school A, and 555 fans cheering for school B. Express the number of fans cheering for school A as a percent of the number of fans cheering for school B. So in this case, we have the school A for 370 as a percent of the fans for cheering for school B, which is 555. So P equals percent times W, so 370 equals X times 555. So divide both sides by 555. So X is going to equal 0.6 repeating. Remember what I said, 0.6 repeating, I said that you should memorize what that means. 0.6 repeating is 2/3. 2/3 as a percent is 66 and 2/3%. Now, to express the number of fans cheering for school B as a percent of the number of fans cheering for school A means we are going to reverse that. So in this situation, we have P is going to be 555. We're still looking for our percent, which will be X. And our W is going to be 370. So here we've got P, percent, and W. So here we've got 555 equals X times 370. So we have 370 that we are dividing by. So our X is going to equal 1.5. So when I move this over, we have 150%. Oh, let me move that up so you can see that. And that's what that one would be. Okay. So next, we have 2 more questions, and that would be the end of this lesson. We have a plant in Michaela's garden was 40 inches tall one day and was 4 feet tall 1 week later. By what percent did the plant's height increase over 1 week? Well, first, what we need to do is change the 4 feet to inches, which would be 48 inches. That would be first. The second thing is it wants to know what the percent it increased over 1 week. Well, if it was 1 week tall, 40 inches tall one day and 4 feet tall 1 week later, okay, over that week it grew 8 inches because what happened is we have to subtract that. So 48 minus 40. So it grew 8 inches in 1 week. So our P is 8. We are looking for our percent. Our whole is what we started with. In other words, it's a percent increase. That is what this problem is working with. So our whole is 40 inches because that's what it started with. So now we have our percent, or part, percent, and whole. And we are replacing our numbers. Divide both sides by 40. And x is going to equal 0.2 by moving our decimal point. It increased. The plant's height increased by 20%. Our last question says Lauren must obtain a minimum number of signatures on a petition before it can be submitted. She was able to obtain 672 signatures, which is 40% more than she needs. In other words, more than means we add it to 100%. How many signatures does she need? So here we've got P, percent, and W. So P is the 672. We are looking for 1.4 because, again, that is 140%. We are adding that to 100 because it's more than she needs. And we are looking for the whole. What did she need? So P equals percent and whole. P is 672 equals 1.4 times X. So 1.4 X equals, and let's do this on our calculator. $672 divided by 1.4, and we get 480. So she needs 480 signatures. And that ends our lesson.